So Pikmin 4 has been out for a while at this point, and you better believe I've been playing the crap out of it. One thing I've always appreciated about the Pikmin fan base is that there doesn't seem to be a general consensus on which game is the best. Some prefer the nostalgia and simplicity of the original, some enjoy the larger scale and new systems of 2, and others prefer the updated graphics and refined mechanics of 3. And as someone who's played every entry in the series, spin-offs not included, I can safely say that Pikmin 4 is the most fun I've ever had playing a Pikmin game. But why is that? Well, I think that comes down to a number of different factors, so let me do my best to discuss one of them right now. Ah, the world. Arguably the most important part of a Pikmin game, and I believe that the world of Pikmin 4 offers an amazing return to form while also offering enough new things to keep the experience fresh. For starters, these stages are gorgeous. New settings and scenery that improve upon the already beautiful settings of Pikmin 3. But what I especially love about these stages is just how open they are. One of my main problems with Pikmin 3 is that it seemed a lot more linear than the other games in the series. It felt weird that you had to defeat the boss of each area in a specific order to progress to the next area. And while that may not be a problem for most people, for me it took away some of the freedom I felt in the previous games. And while you can certainly still explore said stages at your own pace, this game-boss relationship made it seem like I was constantly pushed to play as the devs intended, an idea that I would never usually associate with other Pikmin games. Fortunately, Pikmin 4 changed that. Now we're no longer forced to solve the exact puzzles necessary to defeat specific bosses in a specific order, and instead, as long as we collect enough treasure, it's onward and upward. Or rather, onward and downward, as I'll talk about in a few minutes. But yeah, not only are these maps huge and incredibly open, but I also love the abandoned human civilization aesthetic that they have. Yeah, in previous Pikmin games there are bits and references of the giant human civilization that lived here before, but this is the first game where they really go all out with it. I mean, for one of the levels, you literally go inside a house. That's a new one, isn't it? Getting to explore and see these settings that we usually see as so trivial from the perspective of these characters is amazing and adds so much to the world. It genuinely feels like you're exploring abandoned ruins and discovering something about this long-lost civilization, even though we see these things in our everyday lives. I'm really happy they went all in on this aesthetic, as it puts a really neat spin on the overall pretty repetitive environments we've seen in these games. Now, of course, we can't talk about the world of Pikmin without talking about the Pikmin themselves. An automatic one-up this game has over 3 is that it brought back every previous Pikmin type, while keeping up the trend of adding 2 new types for each game. As for the 2 new types, Ice Pikmin and Glow Pikmin, both offer up new gameplay styles that never could have existed before. Ice Pikmin have the ability to freeze both enemies and water. In regard to enemies, the freezing ability may seem a bit overpowered, and yeah, in most cases it totally is. But killing an enemy while it's frozen completely destroys its body, making it impossible to take back to the Onion. This offers up a nice consequence for those who over-rely on this ability. In regards to water, this gives the player an alternate option to conquer those dastardly pools. And it's also somewhat balanced by the fact that if water is frozen, you can't get anything that might be underneath it, as well as the fact that the bigger the body of water, the more Ice Pikmin it will take to freeze it. So while it'll be no skin off your back if water only takes 10 Ice Pikmin to freeze, if it takes 80, you'll be best off sticking with blues and wings. And now for the other Pikmin type, the Glow Pikmin. Glow Pikmin function in a similar way to the Bulbmin in Pikmin 2, not having any elemental weaknesses and can only be used at night, or in caves as long as you have enough glow seeds. In addition, they have an attack in which you can charge up their power, which will launch an attack at enemies that stun them. And the more glow Pikmin you have, the longer the enemy will be stunned. And similar to Ice Pikmin, this ability may seem overpowered at first, but it's balanced out by the fact that this ability takes a while to charge and gives enemies numerous chances to attack you, so you'll be forced to use it effectively. It's a simple but fun to use ability that rings true to the ever-present Pikmin theme of using your time in Pikmin wisely, and I'll always have fun using it while I'm doing night expeditions. This game took a bit of a risk by bringing back one of the most divisive aspects of Pikmin 2, the caves. Now when it comes to Pikmin 2, I'm on the side of defending the caves, as I thought they offered a cool new method of gameplay, one where you didn't know exactly what you'd find, would have to ration your Pikmin accordingly, and would have to decide if you should cut your losses by returning to the surface or keep going. I always liked this dungeon crawling feature that's not burdened by the time left in the day, though I will admit it was far from perfect. My biggest issue with the caves in Pikmin 2 is that there was too much emphasis on them and not too much to do on the surface, leaving me with a desire to have more of what made the first game great. There was also the factor of not getting every treasure in a cave, meaning you'd have to jump back in and start from the first level once again, which would prove to be an incredibly tedious process if you left something on the lower level of a cave. So did Pikmin 4 improve on these flaws? Absolutely. One benefit of having the larger, more open maps that I talked about before is how they're absolutely packed with things to do. Gather treasures, solve puzzles, defeat enemies. There's so much you have access to without even diving into any of the caves, which definitely fixes the balancing of content issue. Now what about the issue of diving in and out again in case you missed something? Well, clearly the devs were listening in that regard, as now, instead of having to work your way through every sub-level again, you can choose to start off on any sub-level you've already been to. A really convenient feature to have, especially for the final cave, which is 20 levels deep? Damn, the deepest cave of Pikmin 2 was only 15. Needless to say, this feature definitely improves upon one of the most annoying parts of the caves in Pikmin 2. The Piklopedia returns after an unfortunate absence in 3. The devs clearly realized their mistake and brought it back for Pikmin 3 Deluxe, and brought it back once again for Pikmin 4. I couldn't be happier about this, as the Piklopedia just adds so much to the world and environment. It makes the creatures listed in it feel like more than just obstacles in your way. With all the notes on them, they feel like actual creatures that are being researched by you, which kinda makes me feel bad about killing them, but that's not what we're focusing on. It's so fun reading through all these notes that have nothing to do with battling the creature, but are still there regardless. It shows that the devs put so much thought into these creatures rather than just making them another creature to kill. And similar to Pikmin 2, it's absolutely hilarious to see the different notes by different people. This time, we have 3 sections of notes, one by the creature enthusiast Dalmo, one by Olimar, and one by Louie. Dalmo talks about how cute the creatures are and how he'd interact with them. Olimar has all sorts of detailed and scientific observations, and just like before, Louie talks about how he'd cook them. Most of his recipes are the same too, so a thumbs up for consistency. In addition, the new Piklopedia also gives players the chance to interact with enemies, letting them form new strategies for dealing with them in the future. A really useful concept that less experienced players should definitely take advantage of. Now there's definitely more to what makes this game stand above previous Pikmin games, but those are for another time. I've talked about all I can about the main world, but I never even got to the fact that you can go out at night this time, and there's a hub world. Definitely things I gotta get to soon. Hope you can wait until then, cause there's definitely more to talk about.